Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. My name is Mark Rodin, and today we're doing another tier list video. It is going to be on the Nissan Skyline, pretty much the GTR generations. Some of these don't actually technically have GTR models for them. The first three don't. The GTR line didn't actually start until the R32, but I figured these other three models were iconic enough to include them into the tier list. And I also do have the R36 at like 50th anniversary, like weird car that like it's very confusing, to be honest. I have that in there too. We will be ranking that one, even though I know that it's not like a real car. It's kind of fake. It doesn't matter. I still want to do it really badly. So this is a tier list. In case you don't know what tier lists are, is you rank the cars based off of like almost like a high school grading format, right? So you got S is the best. Those are the best cars. A is right behind them, very good cars. B is above average. C is right below average. D is pretty bad, and then F is like the worst of the bunch. Now, in all means necessary, I want to say literally no GTR is a terrible car, but there is going to be one or two F tier GTRs in this list because I'm comparing them to GTRs. Okay, so I'm not comparing these cars to like other cars, I'm comparing them to GTRs. So whether or not it's a good GTR compared to other GTRs is what I'm going off of. So when you see a GTR being in the F tier, don't be like, there's no way that the GTR is an F tier car. I'm saying that it's an F tier GTR, if that makes any sense. Anyways, let's get right into it with the first generation, or I guess not technically the first generation Skyline, but it is like the first sports R model, the 2000 GT. This is going to be an A tier. A couple reasons why. I do really like the looks of the car. I think it's really good, and it did absolutely 100% start the whole GTR line. It is the granddaddy of the GTR cars, and I give it nothing but respect for that. I really like that about it. It's obviously an incredible car. It's just not my personal favorite in terms of looks. I really do like the 90s and 2000s cars more than I like these very old like 60s 70s cars. I like the newer models a lot better, so I do have to say I think it fits perfectly in an A tier. A is still very good. I just don't think it's one of the best, you know. Next up here though is going to be the second generation, or the C110 GTR. These things, all right, so this is what I mean by you guys might get a little bit mad, is it's going to be an F tier for me. Here's the reason why, okay? Hear me out, okay? Actually, I'm going to put it in a D tier. I'm going to put it in a D tier. I'm not going to put it in an F tier because I want to save the F tier spot for one car and one car only. But I think it's a D tier car. I don't think it's great of a GTR. It didn't really like make any massive improvements. It wasn't anything super crazy. It didn't look that good in my personal opinion. I think it's probably the worst looking GTR of all time. Obviously, yeah, it was technically better than the first generation, but not to me. It just wasn't that special, wasn't that great. Nothing really stood out to me. And they're like stupidly expensive for what they are too. I mean, I know every GTR is pretty expensive, but these ones are kind of ridiculous. I don't understand why they're so expensive. This is, though, I will say, this is before they were all-wheel drive, so this car is rear-wheel drive, which is pretty cool. I like that about it, but that's about it. That's the only thing I can really think of I like about it. The looks are interesting. I'm definitely not saying it's an ugly car. It's definitely not, but I don't think it's the it's one of the better GTRs for sure. Next up is going to be the R31. The R31 is right before they turned it all-wheel drive, and it had so much potential. It is such a good car, and people sleep on it heavily, so I'm putting it in a B tier. It is such a slept-on car. Oh my god, this car is slept on. I freaking love the R31 Skyline. It is so cool. They're also like probably the cheapest Skyline you could buy. So if you want a Skyline really badly, but you don't have a lot of money, this is probably the one to go. I found one for $8K on Facebook Marketplace one time, already imported. Like, it was a very good deal. Like, these cars aren't that expensive, and it's a very, in my opinion, incredibly good looking car. I think it looks amazing. And once again, this one's also rear wheel drive. This is right before they made it all wheel drive, so it was still rear wheel drive. I think it was a massive increase from the second generation too. I think everything about it is pretty freaking cool. I don't know if I'm a huge fan of the taillights, but they're unique, so I do gotta give it that. But next is the first actual GTR, Godzilla, the legend himself, the R32 GTR. It would be stupid of me not to put the R32 in the S tier. It is probably my favorite GTR ever. of all time. I think a lot of people would agree with me on that. And I know this is going to sound crazy, but it's relatively cheap compared to like other GTRs, if that makes any sense. Like R34 GTRs are going for 6 figures, sometimes 7 figures. Okay, and yes, the R32 does go for 6 figures sometimes, but it also still will go for 5 figures sometimes. So if you can find one under 100K, I'm not going to say it's a good deal, but it's better than buying an R34, that's for sure. And in my opinion, they nailed it with the looks. It is definitely the best looking GTR in my personal opinion. It is unbelievably gorgeous. Holy moly. If you disagree with me on that, I'm sorry, but you're wrong. The R32 GTR is one of the best looking cars ever made from Japan in general. It is so good. It is such a good car. On top of that, its obvious incredible presence in the racing world in Japan when it came out, it dominated. It was such a good car. Godzilla, first one to be all-wheel drive. Unbelievable car. Next is going to be the R33. I'm going to put the R33 in a C tier, right underneath the R31. I'm kind of just like everybody else when it comes to the R33. My opinion on it is pretty much exactly the same. I think it's just the ugliest version of the three 90s ones, the 32, 33, and 34. Of those three, of the most iconic three, I think it's just the worst looking, and that's just my personal opinion. Now, in terms of performance, I will be the first to admit it is literally better than the R32 in every way. So if you want the better performing car, the R33 is better. On top of that, it also is probably the cheapest one of the three between the R32, R33, and R34. The R33 is probably going to be the cheapest one because it doesn't have all that hype behind it. So if you really want this car, it's at least possible to buy, you know what I mean, for the average person. It's a possible dream car. And so I give it credit for what credit is due. It is a great sports car. It's just in terms of like when I look at it, I don't feel the same feeling that I do when I look at the R32. That's all I have to say. But next is the R34. This is obviously the most popular one. It is the most expensive one. It is one of the most, definitely the most legendary one. I'm going to put it in an A tier. That's right. I'm not putting it in the same tier as the R32, and here's why. I don't understand the super incredible hype behind the R34. Is it an amazingly cool car? Yes, I will not deny that at any point in my lifetime. It is a crazy cool car. I do love the car for sure, but it just doesn't do it the same. Once again, like I said with the R33, it doesn't give me the same feeling that I get when I look at an R32. The R34, if it wasn't as incredibly popular as it is, I don't think a lot of people would like it as much as they do. I think the reason why people like it so much is because they're told they have to, because it's the fastest, best version of the first three, the three brothers, the R32, 33, and 34. And like I said, it is the best. I will happily admit that. It is, in terms of performance, the best car, but it is not my favorite. I just don't like it that much. And I don't know why I'm even defending myself. It's an A tier, guys, okay? So an A tier is still incredibly good, but I just don't think it's as good as the R32. Next, we're going to go on to the R35. And this is where I'm going to make people actually incredibly mad, and people are going to want to kill me. I'm putting the R35 in an S tier, okay? I'm sorry. I know you're about to say the R35 is not cooler than an R34 or the first gen or the R33. Listen, give it 20 years and then come back to me and tell me what you think about the car. The only reason people don't obsess over this car right now is because it's not rare. Okay, you can buy these pretty easily. They're you can find a GTR in today's market for $70K, a base model from 2012 obviously, but still, you can find that in that's pretty damn cheap for a car that is, once again, 110% better than the R34, R30, any of the other Skylines. It is the best one in terms of performance. In terms of looks, I personally love it. I think it's an incredible successor to the R34. I think they absolutely nailed it with the looks. It is obviously the newest one, so it has all the new tech in it. The VR38, that motor that it has, is one of the best motors of all time. I don't care what anybody says. It literally is. Every video that you see of 1320 drag racing and everything, there's a GTR that's just absolutely dominating because this motor can handle insane horsepower. It's a supercar with 4 seats for the price of a BMW M3. And that is an incredible car to me. I think it's easily an S tier. Not only an S tier GTR, but an S tier car in general. Now on to the R36 though, the newest iteration of the line. We'll get into that in a second though. I'm going to put it in F. I'm gonna put the R36 in the F tier. In case you don't know, the R36 isn't technically a real car. It's a car that was made by a company called Ital Design, and they designed it off of the R35 chassis, and Nissan liked it a lot and was like, oh, we should make that our 50th anniversary edition GTR R35. And they never did, but people say that they did. It's so confusing. There's like the lore behind the R36 is confusing, but at the grand scheme of things, it's a horrible. I don't like it at all. I don't like it in the slightest bit. It is literally just an R35 that's been tuned. That's it. It's not like they changed the motor. It's not like Nissan themselves went in there and changed the motor. That never happened. It's a car that's been modified, an R35 that's been modified to look completely different. And I gotta give the company credit, because the company definitely did some amazing work. I personally hate the looks of it, but I do understand the amount of work that went into building it and making it look like that is a lot, so I give them credit for that. But I personally hate the looks. It didn't change anything from the R35 that you can't do yourself. You can literally take an R35 and, besides the looks, make it exactly the same. And personally, I think the R35 looks better anyway. I don't think it's even close to worthy of even, I know this is going to sound crazy, having the GTR title. I know, it's silly, but I don't think it's cool at all. I think it's a very disappointing car. But once again, Nissan did not make the car themselves, so you got to give them credit. You got to cut them some slack. But ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of today's tier list video. Let me know what other tier lists you want to see down below. We've done a couple now. I'm sorry for my dogs, by the way. They're just going to keep going. We've done like the GTI, the Subaru, the Honda Civic generations, Mazda tier. We've done a couple now. I think this is the 6th one. I feel like, what was the other one that we did? I definitely did one more. I can't think of the other one, but I definitely did one more. So let me know what other tier lists that you guys would like to see. Tomorrow is not going to be anything. It's Sunday. But then on Monday, it's going to be a video all about the new Koenigsegg. I'm sure you guys have seen it. I cannot wait. I made a whole script about it. I love this thing, and you guys are too. You guys are going to love it. I'm putting a ton of work into it. It's going to be another one of Mark's deep dives videos. It's going to be the next one of that. It is a cool car. I'm also thinking of making one on the new Charger, the electric Charger, and what we know about that, because it's kind of sad. But I don't know, we'll see about that one. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. Like I said, let me know what other tier lists you'd like to see down below. And das vidania, have a nice night.